The following audio recording has been designed for learning purposes only. Do not share, distribute, or provide any type of copies, or this audio lesson will not be made available to you. Good luck with today's lesson.
Just a little update. I usually have more than, I usually have six or seven presentations during the semester, but I hadn't built that in because what I was going to do, I was going to have a research paper that your groups would work on, but I said, no, I'm not going to do that. So what I did was I built in 4 presentations for the semester. They're going to be 50 points each, so every time you get up here, you're going to earn 50 points. So that's going to make you go over the 740, like I said. You'll probably go over the amount to get the A, okay? So the first one is due on February 1st. Let's see. So if we go back to the modules, you're going to see in your module when it pops up for that week, you're going to see group presentation. Okay, if you can see it right here, it's not highlighted yet. I haven't published it. You're going to see group presentation here. It won't allow you to submit anything, and it's only the presentations are going to be tied to a due date. Like this is due on the 1st. That means it won't allow you to submit any kind of paperwork at all. Okay, it's just letting you know there's a group presentation on that day, and then you just show up, give your presentation, and then when I make a tab for it, it'll allow me to grade it. So then I'll go in after you guys are done for the day. I'll go in and I'll just grade it. There'll be a column for it in the grading system, and I'll just put the grade. I'll just enter the grade in manually. The other grades go in automatically. As soon as I grade the paper, it goes straight to gradebook. Okay, but this one the presentations I'll have to do manually. So again, make sure that everyone has their name on the presentation so that you get the credit. Okay. Alrighty, so that was one more thing, number 2. I do that all the time. I'll think of something like, okay, one more thing. So just bear with me. Start from the beginning. Now these, I noticed that the publisher gives these bare bone PowerPoints, and I apologize for that. They used to be razzy and jazzy, but now they're just plain. So I'm probably going to have to go back to make my own PowerPoints if they're going to do this. For what they're charging you for the book, they should give you a house. No, I'm just teasing. Okay, so chapter 1 is a sociological perspective. Okay, these are our objectives. Okay, so we're going to explain why both history and biography are essential for the sociological perspective, or viewpoint, worldview. People use those words, viewpoint or worldview. You're going to trace the origins of sociology from tradition through Max Weber. Okay. Trace the development of sociology in North America and explain the tension between objective analysis and social reform. So that's this last objective is what you're going to be writing about in your first reaction paper. Do you feel that you should, if you were a sociologist, you would want to either study sociology, because there are a lot of people that do that. They just sit back in their offices and they talk about the problems, they publish the problems, but they don't do anything about the problems, okay? And there are other people that get out in the field and they try to affect change. So which one the question is asking you, which one would you do if you were a sociologist? Would you just want to study the problem, like, oh, okay, that's wonderful, you know, good for them? Or would you want to get out there and help to change things with sociology, okay? And we find that people do that, even when they're doing social reform, it doesn't always turn out the way that we want it to. There are a lot of politicians that use sociology to affect change in a negative way. Okay, they'll study a problem, say the school system. Okay, how can we feed children? through the lunch programs in the school district. They'll use sociologists, psychologists to talk about nutritionists, to talk about what would be a proper diet, and how much would that cost. And so everybody would go in and do the studies and give their opinions, and then the policymakers will make policy based on what people are saying, you know. And it's not always in a good way. That's when you get these crappy lunches, or saying that tomato sauce is a vegetable. That's what happens. So sometimes it's for the good, sometimes not, as you will find. Uh-oh, I'm sorry. Hold on for just a second. I thought I had put it on thought I had put it on vibrate. A second. Sorry about that. I could have swore I did that. Oh, while I have the cell phone out, I'm not opposed to people using cell phone. There are a lot of times I'm not going to remember things. I'm like, what was that movie? Who was that person? And the students will get on the phone. Next thing you know, I got an answer. So you can use your phone in the classroom. If you have a call, just like that one, you could just go in the hallway and use it, okay? But you can use, I'd like to bring the phones into the classroom because there's a lot of information in there that you can get very quickly. So you're able to use it, okay? But if you're ordering anything for yourself while you're on the phone, just make sure you order something for me too, okay? All right, so we're going to explain the basic ideas of symbiotic interactionism, functional analysis, and conflict theory. Those are the three, and they're called different things in the book, but those are the three basic theoretical perspectives in sociology. There are three. And all the other theories are offshoots of those three. Okay? I'm going to explain why common sense can't replace sociological research. So a lot of stuff might seem like it's common sense, but there's a lot of research and data behind the information and the theories and all other information that you'll get within sociology. Okay, you're going to need to know the 8 steps of the 8 steps. Did I say sex? Oh my God. Okay, you need to know. Okay, know the 8 steps of the research model. Oh my gosh. So, and there are steps to doing the research paper, okay, or when a sociologist wants to do some research. Know the main elements of the 7 research methods. There are ways of doing a paper. There are different methods. There's qualitative, meaning you go out and talk to people and get their answers, okay, and use that to put into your research paper, or quantitative. That's where you use numbers, okay, to do the research. Data, okay. Explain how gender is significant in sociological research, okay. Explain why it's vital for sociologists to protect the people they study and discuss the 2 cases that are presented. There are going to be 2, and I have a couple of others. When you're doing sociological research, you need to make sure that people stay anonymous, okay, unless they give you permission to use their name, they should stay anonymous. And then explain how research versus reform and globalization are likely to influence sociology. All righty. So it says first that we want to explain why both history and biology are essential for the sociological perspective, seeing the broader social context, okay? So you want to not only think about what's happening here in the United States, but what is happening globally, okay? What's happening over the course of time globally here, okay? So people are influenced by their society. Do you believe that? Anybody believe that? Are you influenced by your society, by the American society?
Yes.
Okay, all right. People share a culture, okay? But we have different cultures, as I was saying in my social problems class. You have different types of cultures. You have your family culture, that's the very first one that you learn, okay? Your family, how things are done, the way things are, your family teaches you how to move about in society, how to act, you know, something as simple as make sure you put your clothes on before you go out the door. Can't go out naked, that's against society rules, okay? Something as simple as that. People who share a territory. So we share our American territory, okay? The boundaries within the United States, the boundaries within the state of Michigan, the boundaries that are within your whatever city that you live in, okay? That's your territory. And I go fast, so if you want to write something down and I've changed slides, I'll go back. Just tell me, could I go back? All right, so you have your social location, and these are all the categories within your social location. What sort of job you have, okay? Your income, what sort of income you have. Some people have income from job only. Some people have income, they've made investments, okay? Your education, what sort of education you have. Are you a high school graduate, college graduate? Are you a professional? Your gender, male or female? And now there are other transgendered, what's the other one that I saw on Billions? That person neither identified. I watched this show called Billions. It comes on Showtime. It's a cable show, and it's about hedge fund managers, okay? Person who owns these hedge funds and all the things that go on. So in season 3, a new character came into the hedge fund. The owner was being indicted and he couldn't run his hedge fund, and so this woman stepped in. Actually, she doesn't identify as neither a woman or a man. You have to say they, when you have to use pronouns, okay? Either they or them. That's what you have to do. But anyway, so now you have to add those categories too when you talk about gender, okay? Age, I just say all that to kind of explain that you have to add to gender. Your age and your race and ethnicity. All of these things affect how you move about in society. All of those things. You know, your jobs and your income and your education determine your quality of life. Okay. Are you going to have a good quality of life? You have a good job, earn a lot of money, be able to educate yourself. You're going to live well. Okay. Your gender affects also your social location. You know, we know that males have the advantage in most areas over female. Age, okay, you're going to find that as you age, things change over time. I can tell you, people really don't want to hire you when you get like 35, 40. It gets tough to find a job. People don't, even you might have this amazing resume, and people are like, you're overqualified, I'm sorry, I can't hire you. It's really tough on people who are older, the older that you get. You know, and being able to get employment. And your race and ethnicity definitely will affect how you live in this society. Okay, we know that some races or some groups of people have advantages over others historically in this country. Okay. So C. Wright Mills, who is a famous sociologist, he talked about history, okay? History and biology, okay, affect how you move about in society and how you become who you are, okay? So location is in the broad stream of events, things that have happened over time in this country. Biography is your specific experiences, things that you've experienced over time, and then external influences, you know. Again, our experiences, they become part of our thinking and motivation. So all these things go into making you, okay? And it's a bit different from psychology. Sociology is a bit different because psychology deals with the self, okay? Sociology deals with groups. So all of these things happen within a vacuum of being in a group and with a group of people. Okay, in history, you're not going to be in history alone. There are going to be other people along with you, okay? Your biography, your specific experiences always come with others. They contribute to those experiences, okay? And so those become part of our thinking and our motivation and why we are, whether we have issues or not, problems or not. So let me give you an example of what I mean. Say that all of your life you've had family members, because a lot of things start within the family. You have family members who always value people being thin, okay? But you weren't always thin. And so you start to internalize that. You have experiences with people saying, you know, you need to lose a little weight, even though you're very young. You need to lose a little weight. They're always saying that to you, okay? So over time, you start thinking, well, maybe I should lose weight. But I tried, no matter what I do, I never can lose the weight. So you start doing things that are meant to harm you. You may become bulimic, okay, because of that. So again, the thinking about the weight, internalizing that maybe I'll be more loved if I was thinner, you start doing things to make that happen that may not be beneficial to you. So that's what he was talking about in that, and how people become, how their thinking becomes developed and their motivations for doing things. Okay, if that makes sense. That makes sense? The thin analogy? Anybody? Okay, okay. All right. So this is a photo about someone who seems homeless because they're just laying on the street. And you see people like that often nowadays. Okay. A lot of people don't want to be in a homeless shelter because there are problems, issues there. There might be violence. You might not be treated well by the staff. And they figure they can just take their chances on the street. So those things happen as part of that. As I said, I think the author, at least I know the author, at some point he was homeless when he was younger, and so that's a big issue for him, and that's why he's always talking about it. Yes?
I have a question. Are all the lecture notes going to be online?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, they're all online. But some people still choose to write things down. Others will just have the notes. It's your choice. All right. So when you talk about the global village, which we talk about more and more nowadays because we're connected to the internet, we have instant communication with people. Okay, so we have this global village. How do you think that affects how we act in this country? Anybody? Now that we can connect with anybody in the world, we're not limited just to the people in the United States. How do you think that affects your thinking about things that happen here, based on what other people are saying out? You may not be communicating with people out there, but if you were, how do you think that would change you? In what way? Anybody? Yes.
Like, I think it opens our minds to different cultures
Mhm.
and ideas that
Mhm.
we think, like, instead of thinking that what we have is right,
Mhm.
we'll see what other people do, or like what, how they do stuff.
Mhm.
So it opens our minds to new ideas.
Yeah, yeah. I think to me, it's kind of sad in a way that people think that we're the standard. The United States is the standard, the ways of doing things. And so they try to emulate that. We were talking about in my social problems class about people in China, how they have really a kind of closed society. And it's going to create a lot of unrest because people are connected to the internet. They want to know what's going on, But they're losing some of their culture as a result. The thing that came up was about in Chinese culture, people value the elderly. They take care of them. It's a group. It's the group, not the individual. But they become more westernized, and they're doing more things that we're doing. Like, well, I don't have time to watch grandma. She's got to go to the home, okay? Because I'm busy. I got work to do. So they're losing some of the things that they are known for in their culture. And I think it's sad that they want to emulate that part of our culture. Sad to say that people do that. They don't have time for older people or for even having a family nowadays, too. So being able to connect to others in the world has its advantages and disadvantages, I feel. Anybody else want to weigh in? No, not yet. You will. You will. All right. So now, tradition versus science. These are the origins. Augustus Comte and positivism, Herbert Spencer and social Darwinism, Karl Marx and class conflict, Emile Durkheim and social integration, and Max Weber and the Protestant ethic. All right. So, sociology came out of the Industrial Revolution. From your other history classes and whatever, you may remember that people prior to, especially in this country, came from rural areas, from the farms. Okay, over in Europe, people didn't really live in the cities; they lived in rural areas. Okay, so things were pretty traditional. People really worked together. Okay, and so, but people were being starved, basically, because you can't really always depend on crops to do what they need to do so that you can sell them, you can feed yourself, okay? So they found out that traditional way of doing things, working in the group, wasn't gonna help us to be able to feed our families, okay? And so they started to question the powers that be, and that led to a revolution. Like I was just talking about in China, they're gonna have more and more unrest as people want to do more and more things, and they're restricted from doing those things, okay? So there was a political revolution, industrial revolution, where no longer were you confined to the to the farms, but you came to the urban areas to work in factories that were being developed. The machines that were being developed so that people could do the work faster, okay? And then also in terms of being able to think about things in a sociological way, people adapted the scientific method, if you remember from your chemistry classes and biology classes, to questions about social life. How can we quantify what's happening in social life the way that we do in the scientific world? Okay, so Augustus Comte is really considered the father of sociology. He lived during the time of the French Revolution. Okay, he analyzed how that society changed over time based on the revolution that happened. The people got tired of the king and queen of France just living this luxurious life. And we're starving over here in the corner, we're starving. But they get to eat every day. Okay? And so they got tired and they said, okay, enough. And they overthrew the government. Okay? So this is a picture of people going, marching to Versailles, where the king and queen lived. And that's a I've always wanted to go there. I keep telling myself I'm gonna go places, and I always talk myself out of it. But that's one place that I would like to go. In France, it's beautiful. There's a YouTube video of it, and I've seen it, and it's really beautiful inside. They spared no expense putting that place up. But anyway, people looking around and seeing this, and like, I got rags on, I can't eat, I can't feed my kids, and so something has to change. So that's what Auguste Comte studied, why and how society changed, or French society changed. Okay? So he, again, analyzed the basis for the social order. He talked about having a scientific method approach to studying society, but he didn't apply it to himself. Okay? He wondered what held society together. That was probably his initial thinking. Why are things either chaotic or run smoothly? Okay? And so he coined the term sociology, which is the study of society. Herbert Spencer was the second founder, and he had the opposite view. He thought that helping the poor, that was wrong. You know, hey, I don't have time for these folk. If you don't have anything to eat, it's too bad. Okay. Or anywhere to live is too bad. Okay. He felt that those people who didn't have shouldn't be allowed really to live. Okay. Only the people that had money should be allowed to be in society. Everybody else should get out of society. Okay. Okay. And we still have people like that today. We still have, again, when I tell you about politicians asking sociologists to go out and study things in society, sometimes it's with the aim of harming the people who have the least. Okay? Because again, in the back of their minds, you don't deserve to be here because you don't have any money. Okay? So he, Herbert Spencer borrowed the theory from Darwin, and he coined the phrase survival of the fittest. And then he thought there were lower and higher forms of society and people also. Karl Marx was not a sociologist, okay, but he came up with the third of the sociological theory that we use to this day. Okay? He felt that everything that happened in society lay in class conflict. Okay? The rich and the ruling class against the people who didn't have, or the owners of the factories and all of that, and the workers. Okay. So he was an economist. He wasn't a sociologist, but he's influenced a lot of sociology and sociologists. Okay. So he looked at the exploitation of workers, okay, by the owners, and he thought the social change would happen if the workers overthrew the capitalists. Okay, and people still think about that to this day, of doing that. Things will change if we just get rid of the people who own everything, or if we just redistribute the wealth so that everybody can benefit from the money that's in the world. Okay. And in some ways, Marx is right, others not so much, in my opinion. So Emile Durkheim was a French sociologist, okay, and he talked a lot about suicide rates, okay, and he said that there was an underlying social factor. He said people are more likely to commit suicide if they don't have a link or a tie to their community, whether that community be the family or other types of communities within society. They don't integrate into society well. And when you think about it, when people do commit suicide, they're kind of off to themselves, you know. They may seem like they're all right on the outside, but on the inside they're suffering, and they're figuring, why should I be here? You know, what is the point? You know, they haven't made that link to others. And that may have a chemical basis, or it may just be a psychological basis, that they have this lack of being able to connect with other people and find some meaning in life. Anybody have anything they want to say? No, not yet? Okay. See, I'm easy. Okay. So Durkheim got sociology recognized as a separate discipline. He studied how social forces affect behavior. He identified social integration, okay, and that's the degree to which people are tied to their social group. And he identified the role that social integration plays in social life. Okay. He said it's central to sociology today. And I'm kind of going real fast over these. Okay. Now this is new. This is new, and I'm not really. Hold on. I'm not. Yeah, not working for some reason. I'll figure out why that's not working. Max Weber was an early sociologist here in the United States. Okay. Originally, again, sociology started, its origins was in Europe, again, during the Industrial Revolution and during the political revolution in France. That's where it started. But it moved to America, over to America, and it's totally different from the way most elements are totally different than they are in Europe. Okay. So Weber studied the cross-cultural and historical materials to trace the causes of social change and determine how social groups affect people's orientation to life. Okay, again, the group, as I said, what sociology is all about, and how those interactions between the groups form society and make people do what they do. He talked about religion and the origin of capitalism. Okay, so he disagreed with Marx. Okay, that economics is a central force of social change. Okay, he said that role belongs to religion, and that religion is a central force to social change. Okay, and then he talked about, he has a famous book called The Protestant Ethic and the Spirit of Capitalism. And so if you decide to major in sociology and you take graduate courses, you're going to learn a lot about Weber. And then his book, more likely you'll be asked to read it. It's a big one. But it's interesting. I don't particularly agree with what he's saying, because capitalism and religion, when you really think about it, they are diametrically opposed to each other. They just don't go together. Okay? Because capitalism is about the self, you know, and how can I get ahead and how can I become the wealthiest? And religion is saying the opposite. It's about the group, whereas capitalism is about the individual. Alrighty, so this is sociology in North America. Okay. And I'm going to skip that. Okay. So the attitudes at the time in early sociology in the 1800s, that the sex roles were rigidly defined. So you had your men, your women did this, men did that. Okay. Women stayed in the home, took care of the family. The man went out to work. Okay. And very few people were educated beyond the basics. They knew how to read. They may have gone to maybe 3rd, 5th grade at the most. Okay. Only people who had money, who had some wealth, went on, especially women. If the father agreed, they went on and became educated at the university level. But most people, didn't go beyond elementary school. These are some of the forgotten sociologists. There are a lot of women. Okay. You have, and you can look at this at your leisure, but most of these women who were educated had some wealth in their family. And the father either let them go on to university, get their degrees. There are a couple of black women in that, and that was unusual for them, but they had to be educated outside of the country, with the exception of, I think, Ida B. Wells. She went to Hhsc University, which is a historically black college. But another, I think, is Julia, hold on. Yep, Anna Julia Cooper. She went to the University of Paris and got her PhD. And at that time, if you were African American, that's where you had to go. You had to go to Europe to become educated. If you didn't go to a historically black college, you had to go there. And that meant her family had some money for her to be able to do that. Okay. So these were some of the early female sociologists. Harriet Martineau was interested in social reform. And just about every one of the women were interested in social reform. They didn't want to just sit back and write about what was going on and call it a day. They wanted to get out there, and whatever the problems were. In Harriet's time, it was during slavery, okay? And she was an abolitionist. She traveled around. She wrote analysis on social life, but her work was ignored until probably around the 1960s. Most of the women sociologists there, and some of the black men sociologists, their work was rediscovered around the 1960s, when there was a lot of social unrest, and some of the universities were creating these African American studies programs. Okay, and so then all of this theory came back up, and all of the interest in their work came back up. Okay, she published Society in America before Durkheim and Weber were born. Okay. So there were people thinking about the problems in American society and trying to come up with answers to it. Okay. W.E.B. Du Bois, or Du Bois, whichever way you want to say it is good. He was an African American sociologist, and he got his PhD from Harvard, one of the first people. He published widely. Every year he wrote a book between 1896 and 1914, but he left the country and went to Ghana. He had a really big falling out with the NAACP. He was one of the founding members, and there was a jealousy within the ranks, and he was so disheartened by what was going on there and what was going on in America, he just left the country, and he died in Ghana in 1963. But he, again, one of the thinkers, one of the people who thought that blacks should be educated. So there were two schools of thought. There was Du Bois. He thought that blacks should be educated at the university level. And then there was Booker T. Washington that thought that people should get a trade, learn a trade, go to work. Okay? So two different thoughts. Okay. So around the 1800s, a lot of people were poor, as you might have expected, and didn't have any formal education beyond the first, as I said, grades. Okay. And this shows where Du Bois went to work and to gather information, to gather data about how people lived in American society, particularly African American people. James Adam, I'll get it out in a minute. She combined sociology with social reform also. She was one of the first people to have, she was a forerunner for the social service department that we see today. Okay? She founded something called Hull House, and so when people would come to this country, immigrants would come here. If you were sick, you were aged or poor, you could go to this house and receive services. So if you needed food, if you needed medical attention, you would go there, okay? She co-founded the American Civil Liberties Union. She won a Nobel Prize, okay? And she was one of the leaders in the women's rights movement, the suffrage movement. And also a peace movement during the First World War. So most of the sociologists in America, North America, saw the society as corrupt and need of reform. Parsons developed objective analysis, and I'll talk about that probably next week. And Mills, again, I'll talk about that next week. I think what I want to do, with your permission, is probably stop at this point. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we'll stop. Again, the thing about sociology, it's interesting, but it can be kind of dry, a lot of academic, okay? And so but I got to get through it, because this is what you paid for. So what we'll do is when we come back next week, we'll finish up chapter 1. I'll have something for you to do. I got to think of it, but I'll have something for you to do within the time frame that we're going to meet that you can do real quick, get your points, okay? In the meantime, think about your topics, shoot each other emails about what do you think about this or that or the other, and then I can see you next week. Anybody have any questions before you go? No? Okay, all right. Have a good week.
Good luck with today's lesson.